The massive Draknid warship loomed over Earth's orbital defense station, like a predator sizing up its prey. Commander Tetra Blackwood stood at attention, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic display, showing the alien vessel's imposing silhouette. The Draknids had arrived 3 days ago, their initial transmission filled with barely concealed contempt for humanity's primitive civilization. "They're hailing us again," Lieutenant Rivera announced from his communication station, his fingers hovering over the controls. Tetra nodded, squaring her shoulders as the main screen flickered to life. Supreme Commander Corax's scaled face filled the display, his silver-black armor gleaming under the harsh lights of his bridge. His 4 eyes narrowed as he regarded the humans, mandibles clicking in what they'd learned was amusement. "Commander Blackwood, I trust you've had time to consider our generous offer." Tetra's jaw tightened. The Draknid's offer was nothing short of insulting. Surrender Earth's military assets and accept their position as a protectorate of the Draknid Empire, all because they deemed humanity too weak to defend itself in the greater galaxy. "Supreme Commander," she replied, keeping her voice steady, "Earth's position remains unchanged. We decline your offer of protection. We are capable of defending ourselves." A rumbling laugh echoed through the communication channel. "Defending yourselves? Your species barely managed to reach your own moon before we gifted you FTL technology. Your warriors are soft, your weapons primitive. Even now, your station's shields would crumble before a single volley from our smallest vessel." Behind Tetra, the bridge crew tensed. They knew the Draknid commander wasn't entirely wrong about their technological disadvantage, but that had never stopped humanity before. "Perhaps," Tetra conceded, allowing a small smile to cross her face, "but I suggest you review your history, Supreme Commander. Humanity has a habit of surprising those who underestimate us." Corax's upper eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of dismissal in Draknid body language. "Your species' pride will be your downfall. We offer civilization, order, protection, and you respond with defiance. Perhaps a demonstration is in order." The transmission cut off abruptly. Moments later, alarms blared throughout the station as multiple smaller Draknid vessels broke formation, moving to surround the orbital defense platform. "Battle stations," Tetra commanded, her voice carrying across the bridge. "Lieutenant Rivera, send word to Earth Command. Activate Protocol Omega." She turned to her weapons officer, Lieutenant Jung, prepare to deploy the NEXUS defense grid. The bridge erupted into controlled chaos as crew members rushed to their positions. The NEXUS defense grid was humanity's ace in the hole. A network of quantum-linked defense satellites that could redirect and amplify energy weapons. It was experimental, untested in actual combat, but it was also their best chance. "Supreme Commander Corax," Tetra broadcast on an open channel, "before you proceed with your demonstration, I should inform you that humanity has a saying: never back a cornered animal into a fight." The Draknid vessels opened fire, their energy weapons lighting up space like artificial stars. But instead of impacting the station's shields, the beams were caught by previously invisible satellites, their energy redirected and amplified before being sent back at the attacking ships. 3 Draknid vessels lost shields before they could react, their hulls scarred by their own weapons. The others broke off their attack, retreating to a safer distance. Corax's face appeared on the screen again, his mandibles twitching with barely contained rage. "Impossible. Our scans detected no such defense capability. As I said, Supreme Commander, humanity has a habit of surprising those who underestimate us. Now, shall we discuss terms for a more equitable relationship between our species?" The Draknid commander's eyes narrowed, but there was something new in his expression. Respect, however grudging. "Perhaps we should review our initial assessment of your species' capabilities." "A wise decision," Tetra replied. "Though I warn you, this is just a small example of what humanity can do when challenged. We prefer friendship to conflict, but we will not bow to intimidation." As negotiations began in earnest, Tetra couldn't help but think that this was just the beginning. The Draknid's arrival had changed everything, but not in the way they had intended. Instead of finding an easy conquest, they had discovered that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its technology or weapons, but in its unwavering spirit and ability to innovate under pressure. Little did either side know that this first contact would lead to changes far more profound than anyone could have imagined. Changes that would begin with understanding and end with the birth of something unprecedented in the history of both species. Lieutenant Nyx Winters had never seen anything quite like the Draknid diplomatic vessel's interior. The corridor walls pulsed with bioluminescent veins, casting an ethereal blue glow that made her feel like she was walking through the depths of an alien ocean. As Earth's foremost xenobiologist, she'd been chosen to join the diplomatic team, but nothing in her studies had prepared her for the reality of Draknid biotechnology. The human appears fascinated by simple illumination. A deep voice rumbled from behind her. Perhaps she's never seen true technological advancement before. Nyx turned to face Varaak, the Draknid warrior assigned as her liaison. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, his scaled armor seemed to flow like liquid metal, adapting to his every movement. Unlike Supreme Commander Korax's silver-black coloring, Varaak's scales held a deeper, almost midnight blue hue. Actually, Nyx replied, maintaining eye contact with his lower set of eyes as their cultural briefing had advised. I'm fascinated by the neural responsive properties of your bioengineered lighting system. The way it adapts to emotional resonance is quite remarkable. Varaak's mandibles twitched, a gesture she was learning to recognize as surprise. You can detect the emotional attunement. The patterns shift in response to the occupant's pheromone levels and electromagnetic output. Right now, they're displaying a frequency consistent with curiosity and mild agitation. She smiled, though I can't tell if that's coming from you or me. For the first time since their meeting, Varaak's rigid posture relaxed slightly. Perhaps both. You are not what I expected, Lieutenant Winters. They continued their walk toward the biological research labs, where the Joint Scientific Commission would begin their work. The recent peace negotiations had opened unprecedented opportunities for scientific exchange, though tensions remained high after the initial conflict. Your Commander Blackwood's defense strategy was impressive, Varaak admitted as they walked. We had not anticipated such innovative use of quantum mechanics, and we hadn't anticipated a species that could integrate biological and mechanical technology so seamlessly, Nyx responded. Which is why this exchange is so important. There's so much we could learn from each other. They'd reached the laboratory, a vast chamber filled with equipment that seemed to blur the line between organic and mechanical. Other human and Draknid scientists were already there, maintaining careful distances from each other as they worked. You truly believe our species can cooperate? Varaak asked, his tone holding genuine curiosity. After we threatened your world, Nyx began setting up her equipment, her movements precise and deliberate. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our military might. It's our ability to adapt, to learn, to forge connections where none seemed possible. She pulled up a holographic display of human DNA alongside what they'd learned of Draknid genetics. Look at this. Our genetic structures are different, yet there are fascinating parallels in how they encode information. It's almost as if. She trailed off, her eyes widening as she noticed something in the display. Varaak stepped closer, his massive frame casting a shadow over her workspace. What do you see? This can't be right, Nyx muttered, her fingers flying over the controls. The base pairs. There's a compatibility pattern I've never seen before. The way your species' bioelectric field interfaces with organic matter. Theoretically, it could. Varaak's upper eyes narrowed as he studied the display. You're suggesting our species could interact on a genetic level? Yes. Nyx looked up at him, excitement overriding any lingering apprehension. Your bioelectric field could potentially stabilize human genetic material during recombination. It's unprecedented, but the theoretical framework is sound. The implications hung in the air between them. If she was right, It meant their species weren't just compatible for cooperation. They could potentially create something entirely new together. Varaak was silent for a long moment, his bio-armor rippling with patterns she hadn't seen before. "Among my people," he finally said, "such a discovery would be considered either miraculous or heretical. Perhaps both." "And among my people," Nyx replied, "it would be considered the beginning of an extraordinary new chapter in human evolution." She paused, studying his reaction. "The question is, do we pursue this knowledge, or do we pretend we never saw it?" The Draknid warrior's 4 eyes focused on her with an intensity that should have been frightening. Instead, Nyx found herself fascinated by the swirling patterns in his irises. "In my years as a warrior," he said, "I have learned that the most significant discoveries often come from the most unexpected places. My people came to Earth expecting to find weakness. Instead, we found strength we never imagined." He reached out, his scaled hand hovering over the holographic display. "Perhaps it is time we discovered what else we might find together." As they began their research in earnest, neither of them could have predicted how their discovery would reshape the future of both their species. The barriers between their peoples were about to be broken in ways that would challenge everything both cultures thought they knew about the nature of life itself. The news spread through both human and Draknid space like a shockwave. Lieutenant Nyx Winters was pregnant with triplets, and their father was Varaak, the Draknid warrior. The impossible had become possible, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the secured medical wing of the Joint Earth-Draknid Research Facility, Nyx lay on an examination table, surrounded by holographic displays showing the unprecedented development within her womb. 3 distinct heartbeats pulsed in perfect synchronization, each one a miracle of genetic engineering that nature had somehow accomplished on its own. "The bioelectric field is stabilizing the hybrid DNA perfectly," Dr. Raven Matthews announced, her dark eyes wide with wonder as she studied the readings. "It's as if their genetics are actively learning from each other, creating something entirely new." Varaak stood beside Nyx, his massive frame rigid with concern and amazement. The bioluminescent veins in the walls pulsed with the combined emotional resonance of everyone in the room. A swirling pattern of blues and greens that reflected their mix of anxiety and hope. "Our children are warriors already," he rumbled softly, his scaled hand enveloping Nyx, "fighting against the very laws of nature that said they couldn't exist." The door slid open, admitting Commander Tetra Blackwood and Supreme Commander Corax. The latter's silver-black scales seemed duller than usual, his 4 eyes fixed on the holographic displays with an intensity that made the medical staff nervous. "The Draknid High Council demands answers," Corax announced, his mandibles clicking rapidly. "How is this possible? Our species are from entirely different evolutionary branches." Dr. Matthews brought up a complex genetic diagram. "That's what makes this so remarkable. The Draknid bioelectric field isn't just compatible with human physiology, it's actively enhancing it. The field is acting as a stabilizing force, allowing the genetic material to combine in ways we never thought possible." "And the children?" Commander Blackwood asked, her voice softer than usual. "Are they healthy?" "More than healthy," Nyx answered, her free hand resting on her slightly swollen abdomen. "They're thriving. Their development is accelerated compared to both human and Draknid norms, and their genetic structure shows signs of enhanced regenerative capabilities. They carry the strength of both our species," Varaak added, his upper eyes fixed on the holographic images of his developing offspring. "Human adaptability combined with Draknid bioelectric capabilities." Supreme Commander Corax moved closer to the displays, his armor rippling with conflicting emotional patterns. "When we came to Earth, we thought we would find weakness. Instead, we found strength we didn't understand. And now," he gestured to the medical readings, "now your species has done the impossible once again." "Not my species alone," Nyx corrected him gently. "This is something we've done together. These children represent the potential of what our peoples can achieve when we stop seeing our differences as barriers and start seeing them as opportunities." The room fell silent as one of the holographic displays shifted, showing a three-dimensional image of the developing triplets. Their features were a remarkable blend of both species, scaled skin that seemed to shimmer with a subtle bioelectric glow, yet with a more human-like facial structure. Even at this early stage, they radiated an energy that the sensors could barely comprehend. The implications go far beyond just these children, Dr. Matthews continued, bringing up new data streams. The way their hybrid genetics are functioning could revolutionize our understanding of biology itself. The applications for medicine, for genetic engineering, for healing, for weapons, Korax interjected, though his tone held more wonder than threat. For peace, Commander Blackwood countered firmly. These children prove that our species aren't just compatible, we're stronger together than we ever were apart. Varaak's bio-armor pulsed with a deep blue light as he spoke. In our ancient texts, there are prophecies of a time when the barriers between species would fall, when new life would arise to bridge the gap between stars. We dismissed them as myths, but now we're writing new myths. Nyx finished for him, squeezing his hand. And new truths. The medical monitors beeped, drawing everyone's attention. Dr. Matthews rushed to check the readings, then broke into a smile. The babies are responding to their father's bioelectric field. They're generating their own energy patterns already, creating a harmonic resonance with both parents. The first of their kind, Commander Blackwood mused, but certainly not the last. As if in response to her words, the bioluminescent veins in the walls began to pulse in rhythm with the triplets' heartbeats, creating a symphony of light and energy that left everyone in the room speechless. It was a visible reminder that they were witnessing not just the birth of three unique individuals, but the dawn of a new era in human and Draknid relations. The impossible children growing in Nyx's womb were about to change everything, not through force or technology, but through their very existence. They were living proof that the greatest breakthroughs often come not from conquest or competition, but from connection and understanding. The day the triplets were born, two suns rose over Earth. The second was the combined fleet of Draknid vessels that had arrived to witness the historic event, their massive hulls creating an artificial dawn that turned the sky into a canvas of purple and gold. In the delivery room of the Joint Species Medical Center, Nyx Winters breathed steadily as waves of bioelectric energy pulsed through her body. Varaak stood beside her, his scaled hands generating a stabilizing field that merged with her own electromagnetic signature. Dr. Matthews monitored the unprecedented birth with a mix of professional focus and barely contained excitement. "The first one is coming," she announced, as the room's bioluminescent veins flared in response to the surge of energy. Their bioelectric fields are perfectly synchronized. With a flash of light and a surge of power that temporarily disrupted every electronic device in the building, the first child entered the world. Unlike typical newborns, the hybrid infant emerged with eyes wide open, scales shimming with an inner light that pulsed in rhythm with both parents' heartbeats. "A daughter," Varaak whispered, his four eyes blinking in sequence as he took in her features. The baby had her mother's facial structure, but her father's iridescent scales, and an energy signature unlike anything either species had seen before. Within the next hour, her brothers followed, each birth accompanied by its own electromagnetic pulse that seemed to resonate with something deep in the earth itself. The triplets were immediately alert, their scaled skin shifting colors as they took in their surroundings with both human curiosity and Draknid awareness. News of the successful birth spread across both worlds instantly. On Earth, crowds gathered in cities to watch the lights in the sky, not just from the Draknid ships, but from the aurora-like effects created by the triplets' combined energy signature. In Draknid space, ancient temples rang with harmonics not heard in millennia, as if the very fabric of space was celebrating the impossible made possible. "They're perfect," Commander Blackwood breathed, watching through the nursery window as the infants synchronized their bioelectric fields, creating patterns of light that danced across their scales. "And they're going to change everything." She wasn't wrong. Within days, the effects of the triplets' birth began rippling through both societies. The Draknid High Council, which had initially viewed the pregnancy with skepticism and concern, was forced to reconvene when their most sacred artifacts began responding to the new hybrid energy signature. The prophecy of unity, Supreme Commander Korax explained during an emergency session of both species leadership. Our ancestors spoke of a time when new life would bridge the void between stars. We thought it was metaphor, propaganda from our early space age. But now, he gestured to the holographic displays showing the triplets' unique genetic structure. Now we must accept that perhaps our species were meant to find each other, to create something new together. On Earth, the scientific community was in an uproar. The triplets' hybrid genetics weren't just stable. They were superior in many ways to both parent species. Their cellular regeneration was off the charts, their cognitive development accelerated, and their ability to manipulate bioelectric fields opened up possibilities that bordered on the miraculous. It's not just about the children themselves, Dr. Matthews explained to a joint scientific congress. Their existence proves that cross-species genetic compatibility isn't just possible, it's potentially advantageous. The medical applications alone could revolutionize how we treat everything from genetic disorders to aging. But it was in the everyday interactions between humans and Draknids that the most profound changes were taking place. The birth of the triplets had shattered preconceptions on both sides. Draknid warriors who had once sneered at human weakness now requested postings on Earth, eager to understand the species that had helped create such miracles. Humans who had feared the imposing alien warriors began to see past their frightening appearance, recognizing the depth of emotion in their four-eyed gaze. Cultural exchange programs flourished, and more hybrid relationships began to form. Nyx and Varaak found themselves at the center of it all, not just as parents but as symbols of what was possible. Their love story, once viewed as an aberration, became a beacon of hope for both species. "Watch," Nyx said softly one evening, as their week-old triplets created intricate patterns of light between them, their scaled skin shifting colors in harmony. They don't see barriers between species. They don't understand why they shouldn't exist. They simply are. Varaak's bio-armor resonated with the same frequency as his children's energy field. "They are bridge makers," he rumbled proudly. Like their mother, they see possibilities where others see only obstacles. The nursery's bioluminescent veins pulsed in agreement, and somewhere in the vast expanse of space, ancient prophecies continued to unfold. The children of two worlds were just beginning their journey, and with every breath, every pulse of energy, they rewrote the rules of what was possible when love defied the boundaries of species and space itself. 5 years had passed since the birth of the triplets, and the observation chamber of the Earth Draknid Unity Center hummed with barely contained energy. Behind the specialized quantum glass, Aurora, Phoenix, and Nova, the first human Draknid hybrids, demonstrated abilities that continued to astonish both species. Aurora, the firstborn, stood in the center of the chamber, her iridescent scales shifting through colors as she generated complex bioelectric fields. With a gesture, she lifted several objects of different materials, manipulating them through a combination of electromagnetic control and what could only be described as conscious energy manipulation. "Their power grows daily," Nyx observed, watching her children through the glass. Her hand found Varaak's, their own bioelectric fields harmonizing automatically after years of connection. "But it's their understanding that truly amazes me." Phoenix, the elder of the twin boys, was working with a group of human scientists, his scaled hands generating healing fields that accelerated cellular regeneration in damaged tissue samples. His brother Nova collaborated with Draknid engineers, his unique perspective helping bridge gaps in their understanding of human technology. "They are the future we never imagined possible," Supreme Commander Korax remarked, his once intimidating presence now a familiar sight at the Unity Center. "When we first encountered humanity, we saw only what we expected to see, a species we believed inferior to our own. How blind we were. Commander Blackwood, recently promoted to admiral, smiled at her former adversary. Sometimes the greatest discoveries come from our greatest mistakes. Your attempt to conquer Earth led to something far more valuable than victory. It led to understanding. Inside the chamber, the triplets had begun one of their favorite activities, combining their abilities to create complex energy patterns that mimic the structure of the universe itself. Their scaled skin glowed with inner light as they worked, their movements synchronized with an innate grace that seemed both human and alien. "Look at the harmonic resonance patterns," Dr. Matthews said excitedly, analyzing the data streams. "They're not just manipulating energy, they're speaking to it. The implications for everything from space travel to terraforming are astronomical." But beyond their extraordinary abilities, it was the triplets' role as bridge builders that had truly transformed both societies. Their very existence had sparked a wave of change that rippled through the galaxy. The first generation of human Draknid hybrid children had grown to nearly 100, each one unique, but all sharing the same gift for uniting different worlds. "Remember how they mocked us?" Nyx asked softly, watching as Aurora helped a young human child understand the basics of bioelectric field generation. "How they thought humanity was weak because we weren't like them." Varaak's armor rippled with patterns of affectionate amusement. "We were wrong in so many ways. Human adaptability, your capacity for connection, these weren't weaknesses. They were strengths we couldn't comprehend until we opened ourselves to new possibilities." The Unity Center itself stood as testament to these changes. What had begun as a research facility had evolved into a thriving community where humans and Draknids lived, worked, and grew together. The building's bioluminescent veins now responded to both species equally, creating an ever-changing symphony of light and energy that reflected the harmony of its inhabitants. "Mother," Aurora called out, her voice carrying the subtle harmonic undertones characteristic of her hybrid nature. "We've made a discovery. Can you and Father join us?" The observation room emptied into the chamber as the triplets excitedly shared their latest insight. They had found a way to combine human intuitive problem-solving with Draknid bioelectric manipulation to create stable wormholes, something neither species had achieved alone. "It's so obvious when you look at it right," Phoenix explained, his scales shifting to match his excitement. "Humans understand the chaos of space-time intuitively, while Draknid energy manipulation can stabilize it. Together, we can bridge any distance. Just as you bridged the distance between our peoples," Admiral Blackwood observed, watching as Nova demonstrated the principles with a miniature energy construct. The implications were staggering. Stable wormhole technology would revolutionize space travel, bringing distant galaxies within reach. But more importantly, it served as a perfect metaphor for what the triplets represented: the power of bridging differences to create something greater than the sum of its parts. As the day drew to a close, the family gathered in their private quarters, where the walls pulsed with the combined biosignatures of all 5 of them. The triplets were growing faster than either human or Draknid children, their hybrid vigor expressing itself in both physical and intellectual development. "Do you ever regret it?" Nyx asked Varaak as they watched their children sleep, their scales glowing softly in the darkness. "Choosing love over tradition." Varaak's answer rumbled through their shared energy field before he spoke it aloud. "How could I regret being part of the greatest discovery our species have ever made? Our children aren't just hybrids, they're proof that the universe rewards those who dare to reach across the void." Outside their window, Earth and the Draknid fleet shared the night sky, no longer as adversaries, but as partners in an ever-expanding journey of discovery. The triplets' existence had taught both species a profound truth. True strength lies not in domination, but in the courage to embrace difference and the wisdom to learn from it. As if sensing their parents' thoughts, the triplets stirred in their sleep, their bioelectric fields creating a gentle aurora that filled the room with shifting colors. In that light, the future seemed brighter than ever, a future where the boundaries between species were not walls to be feared, but bridges waiting to be built.